Thanks for joining me. This is Danny, and welcome back to my Chisels and Bits series. This is episode number 3, in which we are going to be taking a look at some tips and tricks for builds using Chisels and Bits. In fact, we are going to do a new build today. Right here in this spot, I've already picked out my palette, and what we're going to be doing is building a Victorian-style factory. In the process of this build, we are going to be taking a look at how to make wedges and slopes, things like I'm doing over here on this build, sloped roofs. We're also going to take a look at trim around the windows, kind of like this, but maybe a little different. And then, of course, these types of trims and just things that we can do to kind of give the walls, both the exterior and the interior walls, some depth without having to make them like 3 meters thick like you would have to do in vanilla Minecraft. And then we're also going to do some arches and circles and take a look at how to do that, and maybe some different sized circles and different sized arches. And we'll also take a look at some different angles for slopes and things like that. In fact, I had actually set up kind of a demo over here just showing the different kind of slopes that we can do with Chisels and Bits. We've got our 45-degree slope here. We've got a 26.57 degree slope, which is basically a slope that covers the distance of 2 blocks, going from the top of 1 block to the bottom. And then we also have 18 degree, about 18.43 degree, and then we've got a taller slope there. So we're going to take a look at these different slopes and how we can make those, and different arches, kind of like this one, and then some bigger ones, and maybe some that have just different kinds of angles on them and stuff like that. And then when we're done doing the build, we're actually going to take a look at a few other builds in order to kind of see some techniques that this build didn't cover. I've got the shell of the build, and of course it looks very Minecrafty. It's not very interesting, it's very blocky, and it doesn't have any detail or anything like that. So that's what we're going to do together. You can see I've got a stack here. I have a smokestack. I'm using another smoker from Quartz. I was actually flying around the nether to find that. We're going to make this kind of round-ish, maybe octagonal, and it's going to get wider as it gets down to the bottom. Of course, we're going to add a sloped roof that's going to run all the way on both sides here, and then up here I'm going to have a sloped roof that is going to come to a point in the center. So we're going to have kind of 2 different kinds of roofs here, and we'll get to play around with a couple of different techniques with that. We're actually going to have some round windows, and then we're going to have an arch above the door, and then we're going to have small arches above the window. So let's start with the slopes, because that's probably the easiest part of all. We're using small seared bricks from Tinker's Construct for our roof. We're going to make this block into just a wedge. What we do is we take our line, and then we just follow a pattern from the top to the bottom. So when we're doing a 45-degree slope, all we're going to do is just cut a diagonal set of lines from the top corner to the bottom corner. We're always going to leave that corner there. And then when we reach the bottom, we should end up right here. And again, we're leaving this bottom corner. So no matter what kind of slope we have, so if we look over here at all of our other slopes, so here's our 45-degree slope. We always want to make sure we leave that bottom, or that top corner and the bottom corner intact. That way when we place the slopes together, there's not going to be a gap in between them. And the same here. So now if we want a more gradual slope, instead of going over 1 and down 1 every time, we're going to go over 2 and down 1, over 2 and down 1, over 2 and down 1. So that's going to make the slope extend twice as far, and it's going to make it a more shallow slope. And then if we go over 3 and down 1, then we get a slope like this, which is a little bit less steep. And then, of course, we can also do that in the opposite way, too, to make a steeper slope. So this one is going down 2 and then over 1, down 2 and over 1, down 2 and over 1. Once we cut out all the lines, and then we are going to change into connected material, or we can do connected plane. And we are just going to left click to cut this all out. And there we have our slope. Ta-da! Of course, we only have to do that once, because now we can take our positive chisel design and then place these in other places. Hooray! And of course, we could also do, if we already have a slope, as we did, We can take our negative chisel design if we want to make a slope out of some other material later for some other purpose, and we can always do that, and then we can make a slope out of anything like this brick. Now to save on materials, because these seared bricks are kind of a pain to make, I am going to cheat a little bit on the inside. So on the edges I'm going to use a full wedge, but on the inside I'm just going to do like a little, I'm just going to make a 1 pixel wide arch or slope like this. Using the line mode. There we go. And from the outside, you can't even tell. It looks totally the same. And what else is really nice about this is then we can decide that, hey, we want to use something different for the inside. Like maybe on the inside, we don't want to see the shingle block because this is supposed to look like a shingle, basically. Most bricks actually make pretty good shingles for builds. I find that cobblestone is a really good one too. Some of the chiseled variants of cobblestone actually look really nice because it's a nice gray color that would actually makes a lot of sense as a roof block or a roof tile. But let's say we want the inside of this to be maybe limestone. So then we can just do that same thing, but do it on the inside. Whoops. And of course we can undo wonderfully. We could just do this on the inside. So then from the inside, it'll just look like that. Now one thing we are going to have to make sure we do is if we put a couple of these together, we'll see that there's going to be a little bit of a gap. So remember when I was talking before about the fact that we have to keep the corners intact, otherwise we're going to see a gap in between them. Unfortunately, this method is going to give us a gap in between each one because that is going into the next block space. So then what we're going to have to do is just make a single line in that next block space. And then from the inside, it'll just look like a solid ceiling. And from the outside, it'll look like a solid roof tile. The same principles apply in making circles in Chisels and Bits as do in regular Minecraft. So if you wanted to make a circle with blocks, of course, you know, it's going to be a really huge circle because it's going to be made out of blocks that are each, 1 meter large. So we might, so actually our circle is going to be 16 by 16. So we'll probably want to start with like maybe a row of 4, and then we're going to go 2, 1, 1, 2, and then a row of 4. So the concept is, so let's just start with the quarter or half circle. So the concept of making a circle with square blocks is that you start with, depending on the size of the circle, you're going to start with a certain number of blocks. And then that number of blocks is going to get smaller as you get further away from the side of the circle. And then it's going to start to increment again as you get close to the next side of the circle. If we go 8 bits in, and we want to be in line mode, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we know that this and that is the center. So we're going to go 4, 2, 1, 1, 2, 4. So we should have, yeah. So if we actually check, if we put something else in our hotbar right now so that we can see the block borders, because when we have the pixel, or when we have the chisel in our hand, we can't see the borders of the blocks, but we just move to something else so we can see the border. We should see that we just met the edge right there, as we would expect, because there are 16, because each block is 16 by 16 bits. So again, we'll check to make sure we hit the edge of the block. Yep. Oh, so I made a mistake. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I only went 3 here, so, but that's okay because we're carving out that whole middle section anyway, so I can just go over one more. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2. There we go. There's our perfect circle. Well, as perfect as as Minecraft will let us. So now we're going to grab our connected material. And we can cut that out. And there we go. We have a little hole. Hooray! So then, of course, if we want to add arches to this, we're going to do the exact same thing, except we're only doing half a circle. So in this case, we are going to go, we're just going to go 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we end up with 4. 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2. So there's our half circle, which gives us basically a simple arch. And then connected material. Ta-da! And of course, this one we can make a pattern of because we're going to be using this in lots of places, such as there. There, look at that. For the arch above the door, I'm actually going to have this be like a quarter circle on each side, and then the top part is going to be flat. So to get a quarter circle in one block space, we do our line again. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, and then we do that in reverse. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So again, it's the same concepts that apply when you're dealing with full blocks. So then again, we're going to grab our connected material or connected plane, whatever, it doesn't matter. This block we're actually just going to remove. And then this one we do connected material again. There. We're going to make some custom windows that, along with some frames, I'm going to be using black terracotta, and we're going to place these about 1 or 2 bits inside toward the front. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make kind of a tile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to try something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So something like that. And then we're going to take some glass and chisel it. But before we chisel it, what I want to do is use the chisel mod chisel to turn it into streaked glass. I really like using streaked glass for Chisels and Bits projects because it doesn't have a border, but it has the streaks in it, and it has, of course, the color if it's stained glass. So if we want to just grab this entire block, all we have to do is go to same material and go boom, and now we have that whole block of bits in our bit bag. And then I'm going to do a drawn region, and I'm going to click on, or right click on this corner and hold, and then go up to this corner, and that'll fill that in with window. Look at that. Ooh, that actually looks kind of nice. I think. And then we can take that, and we can put it up there. And then actually what we could do is if we want to use the same pattern in here, we can do a additive, and it'll add it to this block. There we go. We add it to that block, and now you can see we have, actually let me sleep so that we actually can see that we have that pattern, but it just fitted in there where it could. And, you know, if we wanted to, we can take this brown stained, or not brown stained, the black terracotta and make it go all the way around. Maybe just replacing it bit by bit. And by the way, if you have a bit in your hand and you middle click, you'll get the bit. That also works in creative mode if that bit is in your inventory. So just like in regular Minecraft, if you middle click on a full block, it selects that block in your inventory. Of course, you can't do that with a chiseled block because, I mean, unless you have that exact chiseled block in your inventory already. But if you have a chisel or a bit in your hand and you right click, or I mean you middle click, you'll get that bit that you clicked on. So here I added a border on the outside there, and I'm kind of happy with that. I had to do it bit by bit, and I don't want to have to do it again over there, so I'm going to use a mirror chisel design. We looked at these in the first episode when we were looking at, but in a situation like this, it might seem like it'd be hard to flip that because you can't click on this side of the block, but you can actually click on any bit that's facing in the direction that you want to flip it toward. So in this case, I want to flip this that way, so I can click on any one of the bits that's within that block space that's facing in that direction. So I did that, and now we can see that it's faced in the other direction. So now, of course, we take our positive chisel design, and we go like that, and there we go. Now, of course, we're going to have to rotate it. There we go. Got some limestone. It's actually, we're going to do something similar to what I did over here, where we're going to line some of the doorways and windows and such. And actually, I think we're just going to have some like lines just kind of randomly, well, I mean, not randomly, but in some kind of interesting patterns around it too. But I mean, the concept is pretty simple. So we're going to do a drawn region, and we're just going to draw a region. So you right click and you hold, and then I think I'm going to make this 3 pixels wide or 3 bits wide. Yeah, I think that looks good. Now, of course, we could make patterns of these and then flip them and put them over here, but I think it's easier if we just keep doing this. There we go. And then I'm just going to follow this arch. So it's going to be a little bit grindy. And then I think what I find is that when you do steps like this, it's usually nice to have just one bit kind of at the point where you step. So I added a little bit more trim to the front, but I decided that I think that this would look better if it were part of that block rather than sticking out like that. So I'm going to get rid of that. Oh, nope. So I clicked on the top of it in order to get just the line, because if I clicked on the front of it, then it saw this as connected. And then here I'm going to have to do the same thing. So you can see when my mouse is on the front of it, it tries to grab this too, but when it's on the top, it doesn't see that it's connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to whoops. I'm going to, okay, so we're drawn region already. So I'm just going to break out one line here, and then I can go to connected material and fill that in. And then I can actually make a design out of that. And actually I can put that up here too. And then get rid of this, all of this. Of course, we don't want to see these black bricks on the front of the building because that's a roof tile and that doesn't really make sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some bits of the brown stain bricks, and I'm going to do a connected material here, and just right click and then left click. Left click and then right click to replace that. Now, because we have that trim there and we use connected material, it's not going to go through to the top of the block. But now on the other side where we don't have the trim, if we were to do that same thing, it would come through the top. So you'll want to make sure you either do your trim first, or otherwise you're going to have to manually put your roof tile brick bits back on the top. So because our width of our building is an odd number of blocks, we're not going to be able to just put a wedge on the top, because otherwise it's just going to go off to one side and it's going to look like a silly Elvis hairdo or something flipped over to one side. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use the negative chisel design, which you might remember only takes blocks away, and it's already set to do a wedge. So we just right click on the one side, we get our Elvis hairdo, and then we click on the other side, and then we get our little peak. Let's start working on the smokestack. So obviously the first thing we want to do is cover up this thing. thinking down at the bottom, we probably want this out maybe probably even further than that, maybe about half a block, so that would be 8. So what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then what I'd like to do is kind of, and this is going to make this really harder for me, but I want to go on an angle from here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to start in there. Okay, flower. So that is kind of rounded, but more octagonal. So according to my calculations, if we go in 1 bit on each side, about every 2 blocks, when we get to the top, we're going to be at about the size that I want. So that's what I'm going to do. However, I have it hollowed out. So, which kind of makes sense, right? You know, it's a chimney, so it would be hollow. That's where the smoke passes through. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe we can have something going on in here at some point. We can get access to this, have a machine hooked up to it or something. But for this one, basically, I just copied that pattern, and then I put a plane on one side, and then I broke the plane from the other side. Here where the roof meets the chimney, and the chimney is kind of hanging over in this direction, the slope is going to kind of overlap the chimney. It's going to kind of run into it. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take our slope pattern and use the additive so that we can add the bricks to that block space. Because of course we don't want to replace those bricks. And then to get rid of the seared bricks from the inside, we can use the connected material. And that will just get rid of the seared bricks, and it'll leave the brown bricks alone. There's our smokestack. It was a little bit tough, especially because of those corners, the way I set up those corners. But I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. There's 2 more techniques I want to cover with this build. One of them is adding some depth to the walls, basically just by carving into them. So, of course, normally in vanilla Minecraft, you would have to have like multiple layers of blocks in order to get some depth, but of course with Chisels Bits we don't have to do that. So what I actually want to do is I want to have it so that the bricks are like the bricks along the windows and on the edge of the house are kind of sticking out, and the rest of them are kind of recessed. But I only want to do this for part of the build. In fact, I actually already did it over here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So I've got in between the 2 trim stripes here that I've got, I have these bricks kind of set in a little bit, and then I just have these kind of sticking out just to give it some depth and make it look a little bit kind of, I don't know, deep and realistic. So you can probably already figure out how I would do that, but basically I'm going to do a drawn region, and I'm going to start right there, and I'm just going to take, I'm actually going to go 2 blocks deep, and I'm going to need 2 patterns. There's basically 2 different blocks, or we're going to need 1 pattern for kind of the left side and then 1 pattern for the right side. Of course we could use the mirroring chisel design to flip this, but it's probably easier for me to just do it this way. Okay, so that's the top of the block. So I'm actually going to cut this piece out, and we're going to go 2 layers deep. Cut that piece out. Okay, and then do the same thing over here. And then we could actually do a connected material to get that next layer, and we could have done that for the whole thing. So then that gives us a little bit of depth. So now I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to put it down there, and I'm going to put it on the right side of all the windows. So the last technique I want to do is working on a roof over this little square part of the building. that comes to a point at the center. So what makes this one different is that we're going to have the angles on each side heading toward the center. So instead of having like an A-frame type pitch like this, we're going to have almost like a pyramid, except two-sided. Except four-sided. So I'm going to get a negative chisel design of my wedge, and I'm just going to go like this. And from this side, I'm going to go like this. And then when I hit that corner, it's going to make that. So we're just going to do that all the way around. For the inside walls, we have these 2 pixel wide things that have different patterns on each side. To get the corner for this is a little trickier, but not too terrible. So basically, I'm going to place this pattern here. Actually, I'm going to place it in both directions. So then I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to go additive. Actually, it doesn't matter whether we do additive or impose. In this case, it's pretty much going to give us the same result, except just faced in a different. And then we get this funny little thing. And then what we can do is actually take our negative chisel design from our wedge and go at it from this side and this side. And that's just going to cut off everything that doesn't fit into a wedge. But then we do end up with this one stripe of the inside material on the outside, which we're going to have to manually get rid of one bit at a time. Of course, we're in bit mode, or single bit mode. You can actually also do drawn region. If you just do single clicks with drawn region, it actually acts the same as bit mode. So we'll just have to do this 16 times, and then of course once we're done with this, then we'll have a pattern that we can use on all 4 corners. And we're going to do placement. There. I'm actually going to place a block here, just so that we have something to place it against. I'm going to break that later. I've been doing that a lot when you're placing these kind of blocks on the edge. There's nothing to place them against, so like you have to place one block before you can start the next row, and then I just break that block when I'm done. So I'm going to do basically kind of similar thing to what I did before. There we go. That looks cool. We should just leave it like that. So then I'm going to take my negative chisel design, and I'm going to hit it on all 4 sides. Place these bit by bit. There. This is done. Cool. So there's our Victorian factory. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So now I have a place for my big reactors. That's what I'm actually going to use this for, because we're going to be doing some extreme reactors in a future episode in my 1.12.2 series, and this is going to be the build for it. This little corner back here is where I'm going to have my reactor. It's pretty much going to fill that whole space. In the next episode, we're going to take a look at some more builds that I've already completed, both in this world and in a lot of other worlds that I've played in the past. I'm taking a look at some techniques that we didn't cover doing this particular build. I had actually intended on having that be a part of the same episode, but this one ran a little longer than I had expected. So I've already recorded it, I've already started editing it, so it should be out very soon, and it's probably going to be maybe about 20 minutes long. So I do hope you join me for that. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, ideas, or whatever, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you did enjoy this, or you learned something from it, or whatever, don't forget to click the like button, and to join me next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.